A Dryosaurus. They originally inhabited forested areas of the late Jurassic, with their name literally translating to tree lizard. I wonder if they bark.
Hello everybody, I hope you all are doing well. I'm the Naturalist Gamer here, and in this video we are going to be making a quick and easy, realistic looking habitat for the Dryosaurus. Now I have 5 of them in here, 1 male, 3 females, and I played around a lot with the coloration variation. So this one right here is actually meant to be a leucistic version, and it looks really cool. But yeah, this video isn't about fawning over the dinosaurs. Of course, it's kind of hard not to when they all look this good in the game. But rather, I noticed a lot of people in my comments and in the Discord server, like some people kind of feel a little discouraged or overwhelmed or just kind of scared to try to like make habitats in this game because you see all the work that other creators are putting in. It might make you a little intimidated. And I'm here to show you that thanks to all of the new tools introduced into the game so far, so thanks to all the new tools like terrain, paleobotany, even the normal like base plants, new rocks, new texture rework, new terrain paints, all of that, it's never been easier to, whoopsie, the game bugged out, but it's never been easier to make realistic habitats, in my opinion, without having to put a ton of effort into them. So, to get things started, I went ahead and used a default blueprint. This is the small shelter, and I also placed a little nest here, and I'll place a couple more since there's quite a few females in this habitat, but we'll get to that in a bit. I placed a nest here, and I placed a on a poop station. I'm not going to go super into the backstage, as I feel like that will be better suited for future videos. But yeah, we're mainly just going to focus on this area and this area of the paddock, as well as like the guest viewing. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is we laid out some fencing to see where we want things to go. Now, while I want to keep some of the fence here as well as that, I actually want to start using some other pieces for a much more zoo appropriate look, especially for these animals. Now for starters, the fence that I used here is a bit too high, so we're just going to go ahead and do a replacement fence. And I'm thinking, we also want to actually see the animals. So what I'm thinking is we'll do replace fence. We'll use this lower fence. I feel like this is quite appropriate for a Dryosaurus. And then in addition, we'll use an additional separation fence. Now, one thing that has made building a lot easier and more dynamic has been the introduction of the grid. We're going to reduce the grid here. And then I think we'll do, let's see, do you want to do 1 or 2? I think 1 might be a little bit too close. We'll actually go by 2. Yeah, and then we're actually gonna leave some space a bit later, but you guys will see that later. So now we have our viewing area where we'll actually see the animals. We have plenty of space for the animals to roam, but we gotta start painting the terrain and giving them plants. So the first thing I want to do is do some terrain painting. Now, for realistic habitats, you want to think about the animal that you're using and how it would behave, what would it eat, and so on, and how would it move. Now, unfortunately, we don't really have a lot of good modern analogs for certain dinosaurs, but birds and some mammals and even hoofstock are a good reference point, especially for animals like this. So you can use those as your frame of reference. In this case, the Dryosaurus is a relatively small animal. We could definitely get away with having some larger trees in this habitat without having to worry about them destroying them, as opposed to like a sauropod habitat or even a mammoth or a ceratopsian or a rhino. But because they are an omnivorous species, I believe, I think their diet is insects and vegetation. We definitely want to give them a lot of opportunities to graze, but not too much. So we're going to put some planters here for the lower hanging fruit, or not fruit, of vegetation. And yeah, let's just get started on some terrain painting. So what I like to do is up at the front, since we're on the temperate biome map, I want to use the temperate soil. I'm going to reduce it, and I'm going to use the square brush. So unlike in Zoo Tycoon, where you could definitely like paint, you could paint and it wouldn't go outside the fencing. I don't think this game or Planet Zoo as a matter of fact as well, are able to do that. So we're just gonna paint all of this Now, it's okay if it goes a little bit over the lines here, because this is where the guest fence is going to go. For now, I'm just trying to make sure that I stay within the lines outside of the fencing, and it's okay if it goes a little bit into as well. But I'm going to be using this for a different purpose, and you guys will see in a bit why I'm doing this. Okay, great, excellent. So now that that's done, we're going to go back and put our focus on the habitat. Now for backstage areas, I like to use the sand brush. Specifically the tropical sand brush. I think it's the most appropriate for spaces like this. And then if you see my elephant barn that I made for woolly mammoths very, very early on into the game, and you can find that in the workshop, it's designed in a way where you would paint sand over it since it doesn't actually have a bottom. Now let's see. So now that we've got that, I want to start blending some terrains, and I kind of want to, I know this habitat is relatively flat, but I kind of want to put like a little bit of a hill here. So I'm just going to go here, do this, lower the intensity, because I don't want it to be too high. But yeah, just give it a nice little hill. And then maybe smooth it out a bit, not too much. Yeah, just to help the habitat look a little bit more dynamic. I don't plan on doing a water feature here. And maybe we can kind of like lower it just a little bit, not too much. Nothing too crazy. Okay, good. Now let's go back to painting. So I think for this habitat we'll stick with the scrubland substrates. Scrubland, and I actually think grassland might look really good in here. And we're gonna switch to this brush because I actually don't want it to be too intense. And we're actually gonna try scrubland paint. So yeah, just don't be afraid to experiment, mix and match, see what textures you like the best, see what works for you. At the end of the day, it's gonna be your zoo, and it's all about having fun in this game. Now, I'm not really a fan of how sandy this habitat looks, so I'm gonna try... I say that, I'm about to do this. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna add some like dry grasses here, so I'm gonna take the savanna brush. And another thing that's kind of overlooked is now each individual biome has its own grass type. So you see that the scrubland and the grass, the temperate grass is a little bit different from the savanna grass and so on. So we got that there. Maybe add some desert grass too. Of course, grass wasn't around during the time of the dinosaurs, but given that these zoos are being built in modern days, it's okay to have grass in your habitat. And now I want to start adding some plants. But before we do that, let's start getting an idea of how we want the perimeter to look. So instead of this perimeter fence that I currently have, I actually want to do a rock wall. Or a mud wall kind of thing. Now, a lot of zoos do artificial mud walls, and before most players would be using these pieces, or someone in the workshop made a really nice, they made a really nice mud wall out of the stalagmites, which is great and all. It's just that you do that long enough and your piece count's going to go a little crazy, but the devs have introduced these new sandstone rocks, and they are perfect for mud walls. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hit V real quick, switch the angle snap to 90%, and then flip this thing upside down. And now this looks like the perfect mud wall and the perfect height for this Dryosaurus habitat. So what I'm going to do is wherever my fence is, I'm eventually going to go around and try to replace the fence. And in fact, I probably should do that now just in case, because it can be a little tricky afterwards. So let's go ahead and replace fence. So we're going to replace all of this with null fence where we want the mud wall to go. I'm going to keep that fence there. Okay. And then we're going to, while we have that highlighted, we're going to go back and do what I did earlier with the mud wall. We're going to take it and then we're going to flip it. Perfect. How many? And we want to make sure we leave just enough room so that the animals can still come in and out. And then whatever gaps are left in, we'll fill those in later. But for now, I think this is a good start. And I'm not going to go super, duper aggro. Well, see, that's already looking better already. Well, let's keep going. I want to thin this out a little bit, just by a smidge. So I'm going to bring those in just like that. Perfect. And now that we have that, we could just copy and paste it on the other side as many times as we need. So have that there. We're gonna need another one. What I'll do is I'll overlap them for now, flip it, and then delete whatever's excess. And then actually what I want to do with this is scoot that all the way down here. And just check for any gaps. No, that looks good to me. Go to edit. I'm going to take this piece, flip them, and paint one here. We'll have one right here. And then take these bad boys and flip them over this way. And then we have, last but certainly not least, this last piece right here. Now, I'm going to do it just like that as well. Give it a little bit of an overhang, and there we go. There's our Dryosaurus habitat. Now, the last thing I want to do is I wanted to fill in this gap, and I think I'm going to do that with this stone. Just take that here, and then stretch them out a little bit. Very nice. And what I like about a stone is when you do that, you can go around and start adding them in places to give the mud wall some extra texture. We're not going to go too crazy with that for now. Great. So I really like how that looks. We got the mud walls done. Now we're gonna do just do some normal rock work. So what I like to do is we'll take this, we'll flip it around, we'll turn them this way, and maybe we'll keep the angle snap at 90. Here, let me turn that down. Okay, good. Now let's turn off angle snap for a bit and keep rotating. And now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to place a rock there. I'm going to place another rock somewhere here. And then I'm going to take this rock, or sorry, not that one, this one. And then I want this one to be kind of embedded into the hill that I made earlier. And you'll see why in a minute. So let's hit X. And then let's grow that rock out a bit. Stretcher. Everybody loves to get a little stretched out from time to time, so we're just gonna do that. Perfect. And now I think what I'll do instead for painting, because the mud wall has a sharp red texture, you can normally go back and change it, but what I want to do instead is I want to go to grassland and take clay and then reduce the intensity. And actually, I want to start painting around the mud walls, or where the rocks and the mud walls would go. Make it look a little bit more natural. Very nice. Maybe up the intensity just a bit. And then I want to add some cracking here, so we're going to do some nice little cracked earth. Okay, that's starting to look better. And then some of that around the hill, and then wherever the walls are, we're gonna just try to paint them in like so. And we don't want to do it too. Actually, it looks like we overdid it a little bit, so let's go back, increase the intensity, and then maybe do this one. Yeah, I like that a lot better. So it's not too crazy, but just to help it help these blend in with the habitat a little more. I'll skip that. And I do kind of like the fence there, so we're just going to keep it there for now. And then around here, we'll do the same thing with this rock. So now, let's go into plants, and if we go to our animal, we're looking at Dryosaurus here. Dryosaurus. We want to use scrubland, coastal, and what else? We want, okay, so they can do desert, grassland, scrubland, and coastal. So for this habitat, I actually want to use like a mix of both modern day and paleo plants that still look relatively realistic. So let's go to grassland. Let's see what we have. These Refordias look really pretty. I think these will look great in the habitat. Now, keep in mind these are browsing animals, but as long as you give them enough feed, and as long as you have places where there's plenty of plants they can't reach like crazy, then you should be fine. Another plant that I would love to add in this habitat is something known as a Coniopteris. So that's going to be in the coastal biome. And eventually I would also like to do a video series on formation-specific habitats, because plants like Coniopteris can work for a lot of both late Jurassic and for early Cretaceous habitats. So that's already looking really good. Let's use a mix of, start using some larger ferns. some larger fern clusters. I'm thinking we should go for the maidenhair fern and some bracken around the edges. Not a crazy amount, but just enough to help break up the monotony a bit. And then, now that we have that, we have plenty of ferns in those areas. We can add some more plants here. But for that, I'm going to go ahead and use the brush instead. So we're going to go to plants. And let's see. We're going to go to coastal. We're going to do Cretaceous prairie. Or actually, no. We'll do coastal prairie. And then we'll lower it just a bit. And then start just planting some ferns around here. Very nice. Okay. And now onto trees. I'm thinking that the ginkgo trees might look really good on this habitat. So let's go to coastal again. And the main reason why, even for realistic builds, you would still want to incorporate some level of paleoflora is because now that the animals can actually eat a vegetation, it's really fun and really awesome to see them like exhibit browsing behaviors. Now I do like that one ginkgo tree, and I think this one will place back here. And then to help better hide the fence, we'll also place some other trees here. Now we don't want to put like a full-on redwood, but I'm thinking maybe we could do. We have some toadites. Toadites, is that what it's called? Let's see here. We have Haladades. Alright, let's actually go to scrubland. I'll start looking at some of the trees here that we could use for this habitat. Alright, so the habitat is looking good. I want to go ahead and add some more soil in this habitat too. So wherever we put our trees, let's start planting some soil. We can do soil and leaf litter. For the larger trees, I like to do like a leaf litter. And let's do it like more like that. And then for some of the and then let's switch back to this. So wherever there's some trees, we'll do some leaf litter. Oopsie, didn't mean to do that. So now that we've got plenty of plants in here, actually we might want to add some more given their likes. Yeah, they could use a little more forest. So let's go back and let's look at some of our plant options. Now onto scrubland. We could do cycads, or we could do more of these. I'm thinking we'll actually use some of this plant right here. It's called, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Some of that. And then let's go back to coastal. Coastal. And you don't have to restrict yourself to the same biome. I'm just doing it for this exercise in case you want to apply some of these techniques to challenge mode. But, let's see, we'll do a Scots pine back here. Yeah, but honestly, at the end of the day, you guys can do whatever you want. We're gonna take this big tree. So I'm actually gonna take this big tree and just scale it down. Because I like the way it looks, I just think it was a bit too tall. Alrighty, and actually I want to place it more here. Okay. And let's add some more plants. And then for our final tree, we can go to scrubland. We'll take one of these and we'll place them here. Alright. So there we go, we have our nicely planted habitat. And so now, our next step will be to add some more decorative elements. Now for this, I'm going to go into my blueprints and I'm going to use a log set that I made. So I'm going to take these, And what I want to do is I want to edit, take this one right here, split from the group, and then start messing around with this. So I wanted to like lay on this rock right here. Maybe flip it over a little bit, and actually kind of wanted it to be a little bit bigger. And this is a custom log. You can use the already existing in-game logs. I just like to use this one specifically for certain elements and what I'm about to show you guys in a little bit. So I like the idea of the log kind of perfect. And kind of like lift it up a little bit. One thing I kind of wish we could do is maybe like potentially change the anchor points of certain modular items, but I think that might be a bit too complex a code, which is fine. Alright, so I think that's in a good spot. That's in a good spot. So what I want to do is I want to take these colors and I kind of want to like make it a little bit browner, but not too brown. I think that's a good look. Okay, so now onto the enrichment for the animals. And this is where the exhibit will start to really come alive. So if we go to compatible enrichment, view landscaping items, view compatible items. So the Dryosaurus, they like termite mounds, logs, and dung beetle nests. So given that we have all these rocks on this side, I think a termite mound would look really good here. And then so we'll have a termite mound here. Or actually, I think given how like forested the whole place kind of looks, we'll stick with the logs. So I want to place one log over here with all the foliage. And one thing I would recommend is I would definitely turn off flattened terrain and remove foliage, especially for items like this, because you don't want all that hard work you did earlier to just go away. So we're going to put one log over there for the vegetables, and then over here next to our log piece that we added, we're actually going to put it like right under here. The animals will still be able to access it, and it looks more, and this is the way that you can make it look more naturally integrated into your exhibit. So I think that's a really cool approach. And actually I'm going to undo that one because I don't think we really need it. And of course the animals are going to start feeding off of the plants that exist in these habitats too, so that's always fun to see. And now I think that exhibit looks pretty good. We just got to add a few more things in the back here to make sure that their needs are all met. So we go to view compatible items. We definitely want a water dish. We don't want a large one because these are quite small animals, so we'll stick to a couple small ones here. And we'll do some small feeding bowls as well. Perfect. And then, if we go back, see if there's anything else. I think we're good. We just want to add a couple more nests in the shelter. And for realism purposes, of course, this is why I'm putting the nest here, but by all means, oops, didn't mean to put one there. But you know, by all means, you can put the nest in the habitat. That one's floating. Let's undo that. There we go. Perfect. So now we got our nest in there. The last thing you're going to want to do before you start working on the guest area is, of course, you're going to want to take your brush and select which biome that you're currently in. Right now we're in the temperate biome. And this is a extra step I always like to do for habitats, whether they're one-off or for entire zoos. We're going to start planting around the exterior, behind the habitat, and maybe on the sides too, since it's just a one-off thing. And well, the reason we do that is so that it helps better frame the exhibit and makes it look more integrated into a actual setting. So now that that's done, we're going to take this dirt area in front of our habitat and we're going to plant it for extra flair. Now the plant that I want to use specifically is a paleo plant, and it is this beautiful flowering plant. It is called a chloranthoid. Yes. And I want to take this nice big juicy bush over here, and I'm actually going to shrink it just a little bit. And you can use any plant that you want. This is just the one that I wanted to use. So I like that. And I'm actually going to use the grid for this. Just plant them like so. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit, take these, turn off the grid real quick, and just and what I like to do just to give it more structure, we're gonna rotate it this way. Didn't mean to do that. Perfect. Alright, and for our final segment, we just gotta add some finishing touches. So let's go ahead and get our guest section ready. I kind of want to use the fossil stone path. I think that would look cool here. Let's do a length of 10. 4 meters is fine. And then angle of that. Perfect. And then if you want to spruce up the area a little more, what I like to do is I like to do little divisions like this, and maybe reduce the length of it, as well as the angle snap. Actually, let's bring the angle snap back to 90. Perfect. And then we're just gonna have this go straight across like that. Or not. That looked a little funny. So yeah, there we go. And then I think as an added bonus, we could do some short decorations. So I was thinking, we'll take this rock right here, place it down like this, kind of sink it in a little bit. Sink it in, stretch it out, lower it, and then we're going to expand it that way. Okay. And then this can be our little, there we go. And then wherever there's gaps, we can fill that in with this terrain. So let's go to Savannah, paint. Lower the size, increase the intensity. There we go. And then we'll add like a little bit of a perimeter fence around here. Add a little perimeter fence on the edges here, and this can be used for other stuff. Alrighty guys, and there we have it. Now, I went ahead and went quiet for this part because essentially you can decorate your habitats however you want, whatever you're doing for your own zoo. But I hope this video was helpful in, just helping you guys get started, get some ideas on how to make your own exhibits look a lot more elevated, especially given with how vastly improved the terrain painting is, the new plants are, and yeah, all the new building pieces that were added in this recent update too, the new enrichment items. There's plenty of options and plenty of ways to make your habitats look and feel much more believable. So I think we're gonna just go ahead and explore this in first person mode to give you an idea of what I did here. So what I did was, this is a sign from Scotswood Paleo Zoo that I'll be uploading to the workshop in a bit. And I made this huge rock with like a Dryosaurus cutout sign. And then, I just filled in the space with some lights. And over here, you have our first educational sign, a couple of benches. You got some trials in there. I think they all went to go. Yep. Donation boxes, binoculars. And yeah, I just love how nice and filled in the space feels. And I didn't have to use that many pieces or anything, and even with using existing blueprints for like the hard shelters and stuff, I was still able to create a relatively impressive habitat. Wonderful. Might need to work on my binocular placement though, because I think you're getting an eye full of pole right there. So why don't we just edit that and just scoot this binocular over a little bit. Scoot him over just a little bit to a spot where he'll actually. So now, it's also always good to explore in first person mode. Now that's more like it. There we go. Beautiful. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's any other animals you want me to attempt to do tutorials on. I definitely, once I finish up Scotswood Paleo Zoo, I definitely want to start doing tutorials on how to actually build realistic shelters based on modern day zoos, as well as like what we know about each extinct animal and their needs. But yeah, let me know in the comments what kind of tutorial videos you guys would enjoy watching, and until next time, take it easy, and thank you for watching.